Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and we are glad to have you on Streaming Idiots today. We've reconfigured our studio, so we've got some bugs that we kind of quite haven't worked out yet. So my apologies in advance if things appear a little glitchy. Sorry about that. But it's going to be a great show, so hang in there with me as best you can. Welcome to all the folks that are in chat. And boy, it looks like a lot of folks out there. I'm glad to have you. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the vMix Fun Time live show that was on Monday night. And you can see it by going to the vMix page on YouTube and click on videos, and it should be the first one that pops up. I've got a clip from that I'm really excited about playing. It's about the PTZ, the Pan Tilt Zoom Camera Control that's going to be built into vMix 17. They demo that, and that's cool, and want to talk about that. I also want to show you their setup. They do a little setup graphic, and so we'll kind of run through that. And then also want to give you a peek at my new server room. Yes, it means that there's more than one PC in it. I got it. Yeah, this, I'm supposed to be the guy that's one guy, one PC, one awesome broadcast, and I'm getting close to breaking out of that. And what's going to break me out is Skype, and I'll get back to that in just a second, because that's where I want to end the show and talk about Skype and what Newtek's doing with Skype, but also what Newtek is talking about in terms of the distance of NDI. If you haven't heard about NDI, you got to pay attention, because it's going to be some really good stuff. So let's, without any further ado, and let's see if this will work too, because Martin's in the chat room. Martin sent me this really cool stinger. So as we transition from one segment of the show to the next, we can go ta-da! Oh yes, that's so cool, isn't it? Thank you, Martin. All right, well, this is the vMix Funtime live show setup, and they've color-coded it so it's easy for us to see. Blue in the top left-hand corner is their audio, where they're using the Behringer UMC 404, which is really neat, and we'll talk about that. In fact, we have talked about that. We'll talk about that some more in the future, and a couple of wireless mics. In the green are the 4 cameras they're using, 2 PTZ cams and then 2 fixed cams. In the orange is Rich's, and we're going to give Rich a big shout out on this one because he didn't get a shout out on Monday. Rich was telling the guys at vMix all about the Newmark Orbit, the wireless Midi controller there you see with all the lights on it. That's really cool, and they spent a lot of time talking about it, but didn't give Rich any props. So Rich, hat tip from us for sure. And then in the white in the bottom, they were using the vMix Go. A lot of times they've used Martin's Asus ROG laptop, and this time they're using the Go. And then you can see the light blue in the bottom right-hand corner is StreamSpot, who was their CDN for the day. And StreamSpot was didn't really do well. They didn't have a big load, and they were buffering all the time. So for some reason, StreamSpot was not able to step up to the plate on that one. But that's the vMix Funtime setup, and it was really pretty cool. They had, and again, you'll want to watch it. It runs about an hour, and it doesn't have any buffering in it because it's a recording, but the real one did. And it was one of those interesting things too, because every time it buffered, it picked right back up where it left off. But if it buffered for 3 seconds, then now their broadcast was 3 seconds longer. And so as it kept buffering, we kept getting further and further and further behind live. So any interaction in chat was delayed by that much. And when they got to the end of their part of the show, they said, okay, we're at the end of our part of the show, and they killed the stream. Well, that killed the buffer. And so those of us that were watching live and were, 3 to 5 minutes behind at that point because we hadn't refreshed, or at least I didn't because I didn't want to miss anything. All of a sudden, the show ended with and they were gone. So it was disappointing, but you can see the whole thing in YouTube, and that's the cool thing. I know it's not cool, but that is the cool thing about our industry, is that we're, even professionals like the guys at vMix are still learning about how this kind of stuff works. I mean, they know how it works in the lab, they know how it works when they're developing it, but the real world is, and I learned this unfortunately in an unpleasant way several years ago, where we had a buffering stream and we were about 10 minutes behind in a soccer match, and the match went down to the last what they call kicks from the mark, what they sometimes call penalty kicks or PKs. And after it was over, we had to clean up and go because we were way behind. So we cut the stream, and the folks that were watching missed the last 7 or 8 minutes, including who won and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I understand about that. I feel their pain. One of the cool things, and let's see if I can cue this up right here. This is a screen cap that I took from the video that I downloaded off of YouTube. And this is a look. You see right in the middle is the big input window where they are selecting NDI sources. And so that's pretty cool. But, and let's see, I'm gonna play with this for just a second and see if I can't sharpen it up just a little bit so it's easier for you guys to see some text. There we go. And so you can see there in the just to the left of the input window, a little red line and then a green line and then a yellow line. Those are the old color categories that are now strung out horizontally across the screen instead of vertically up and down on the left side. And you can put titles in them. So they were basically, at the different parts of their show, they used different colors for the show. And so when you read it, when you watch it on your big screen, you can actually read the writing on it. So that's pretty cool. And then in the bottom right-hand corner is the audio mixer. And we can see, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different audio inputs there. And they are different than what vMix looks like now. They've actually rearranged them, and they put all the controls from the right side to the left side. They've added I think a more accurate and more visually appealing volume meter to the right side. So we'll have to see if any of that means that there are any sort of substantive changes to that. But at least there's a GUI change in that look. And then of course they've added the NDI listing in the inputs that you can choose from. The other one, let's see, was there another one that I wanted to show you? Yeah, let me go ahead and show it to you now. And we're gonna stinger into it. How about that? We'll stinger into it. Yes. Ooh, I love it. This is the input, again, in the center. This is the input for the PTZ Camera Control. So you can actually control the PTZ cams and make presets from this section. It's probably not something that you would want to control on the fly, because you can see this window kind of gets in the way of everything. But it will make setting up things really, really good. So there's that. And then, let's see, what else did we want to show? Let me cue up the video, because this starts about probably about 25 minutes into the show when they start talking about the PTZ Camera Control. And rather than me try to explain it, and I might get 50% of it right, which is not a passing grade. Let's let them explain it. So let me tune those guys in, and we'll use the jaws of death and bring them in. How about that? Here we go.
vMix 17 is going to include built-in support for controlling your PTZ camera. So the cameras we're going to support on the initial release are cameras from PTZ Optics and web-enabled cameras from Panasonic and Sony. So if you bought one of those new affordable Panasonic or Sony PTZ cameras and it has web control, that control will be possible from within vMix 17. So that's all very exciting. And what we're going to do is, you previously saw with the drawer there what PTZ Control is capable of. We're going to do a live demonstration of how it all works right now. So without further ado, I'm going to add the desktop capture, and I'm going to cut to that. So we've created a category here, especially for this demonstration, called Panasonic PTZ Demo. We also have one called PTZ Optics Demo. Now, all you can do is you can set up a PTZ camera from any input. So as you can see, this camera here is our shot coming in via SDI from the Panasonic camera. And I can go into the settings here, and I can go to the brand new PTZ tab. And this is where you can select the device type and you can connect to it. So what I can actually do is I'll disconnect it, just so you can see here. I can type in the web address of the PTZ camera, and then I can click connect. And you can see in the drop-down box here, we've got a couple of providers: PTZ Optics, Sony, Panasonic. So we've got Panasonic, we've got the IP address, that's the local area network IP address of our camera, and then I can click connect. And you can see here now that are enabled a bunch of controls that I can control with the mouse. I can move it to the left, I can move it to the right. As you can see, over here is the camera that's being controlled. I can move that. I can control the zoom in. I can control the zoom out, and I can also adjust the speed of each of these. So I can make this really slow. So when I hold that down, you can see it's moving really, really, really slowly. Let's speed it up a little bit. It's moving a little bit faster, like that. And I can press the middle button to jump home, which is our full zoomed in shot of our studio, which you can see here. So I can maximize that. We can see us in the studio, our lights, our cameras. You can even see the PTZ Optics camera over there. So I'll zoom in again, move down a little bit. Let's speed it up, move it down, and zoom in. And let's bring that shot back to where it was, or near enough. So once we've got that happening, you've got a bunch of controls here. You can create input at this position. So this is where the power of PTZ comes in. What you can do is you can create multiple camera angles that work just like camera angles in vMix. So we've set up a couple here, and you can see one's at input number 14, one's at 15, and one's at 38. And I can create a new one for this shot. So I'm going to do that right now. Click Create, and it creates a brand new input that we can select here. So whenever I click that input, or whenever I select it, it will go to that position. So I can go back to this one, which is the shot we had before. We've got this shot here. We've got...
This is my saved picture from the other day. Yep. So that refreshes when you switch to it, is that correct? Like you have that old picture there of me.
So whenever you create the input, that's when it sets the static. Yes, so that was Tim from yesterday when we were testing it out. So we can go through here, and I can update the photo as well. So I can click that one to go to Tim, and I can right-click here, and I can update that one, which is number 38. Update input at 38. So now when I jump to this, there you go.
Hey, I'm back.
So
your picture there, if you can, that's the one from yesterday with testing.
Yeah.
So just, if you show it live, just refresh that, your picture.
Oh, yeah, so there.
Yeah.
So I can refresh that one as well. So
that just updates the screenshot of what it should be.
Yeah, and updates the position of it as well. So this is the way you take a snapshot because it's a PTZ camera, but it works like a virtual camera now. Now I can click and pick. I can even cut directly to output, so you can see there's Tim's there, and there's that shot, and there's our studio shot like like so, and then we can go back to the desktop capture again. So there's a whole bunch of different camera angles. You can have unlimited camera angles, and you can even assign them to a switcher or MIDI control. So when I jump here to the input on my control surface, it will automatically jump to that camera angle. So not only can you control it with the mouse from the input settings, not only can you control it by setting up presets for inputs, you can also control it with the Xbox controller, which is what we set up before. So I can sit here in my Xbox controller as long as the camera is in the input that I've assigned the PTZ to. There we go. I can control it like so. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. So we can zoom out and see the studio. I can zoom in with the Xbox controller, and that will preset to the speed that I set in the input settings. So that's the way that I can control the pan, tilt, and zoom using an Xbox controller. And you can plug multiple ones of these in. This is controllable via standard shortcuts. So if we go to the desktop capture here, I can go into settings, I can go into shortcuts, and I can go into the joystick tab and go to templates. And here you can see the brand new preset, which is got all the different controls moving up, moving down, zooming in, zooming out. Have been programmed right there from the preset to the Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller. And it's joystick controllable. So any joystick, any gamepad you can put in there. You'll just have to create your own preset to control everything that way. So I can bring that back into the preview, and then you can control it. The shortcuts are assigned to preview, just to make it easy. You just click whatever PTZ camera into preview, and you can start controlling it. But you can manually assign this to do a particular PTZ camera. And just to demonstrate the multi-camera support for PTZ, we have PTZ Optics camera right here as well. So here's a couple of other shots that we were programming yesterday. It just saves the snapshot of when that particular shot was taken. So I can go and jump to his camera angle there. The camera is already set. There's that one there. There's this shot here. You can see the camera behind cam. And then I can zoom across here to me, and back, and to that one, and back to that again. And this is using the PTZ Optics camera. So now, because it's in preview, I'm controlling it with the Xbox controller again.
Magic.
Like so, zooming in and zooming out with multiple different cameras. So now I can select this shot back, cut to that, and I've updated that shot. So I should actually put that back. So I'll just go into here and slow it down a bit so I can sort of fine tune that. So, and then I right click and choose update camera 14. And we're back. We're back. So hopefully that NDI demonstration was handy, useful to you to see some of the overview. 3 ways to control PTZ. The first way is with the mouse in input settings. The second way is by creating inputs, virtual inputs that will automatically move to a particular position when you click on them, or you select them in the control surface, or you select them with the mouse, or you transition to them. Anytime they're live, they will move to position. And the third way is using MIDI control, or in particular joystick control. You could even assign it to buttons on your MIDI controller and assign 4 of them for up, down, left, and right. There you go, PTZ control. 3 different ways coming up in vMix 17.
So, pretty cool, huh? I think the possibilities for this are going to be pretty stunning. Number one, I'm not sure how they did all that. We got to find out. I mean, I understand the buttons they pushed. Don't get me wrong. I'm an idiot, but I'm not that bad. But are the cameras connected to the network? Is that how they're doing it? Or are they sending some sort of signal through the NDI cable? No, they can't be doing that. there must be, I mean, there's some way that they have a physical or wireless connection with those cameras that they are controlling them. I'm thinking that it's the IP control. Now, I'm not familiar with, was it the Panasonic? That was the other camera that they had. I think it was the Panasonic. But I am familiar with the PTZ Optics cam because I've got one here in the studio. And yeah, boom, it's not particularly adjusted to anything right now except kind of showing you the top of the studio and the ceiling fan. But it is currently, mine is currently connected by via IP, and then it has power connected to it, and then it has SDI connected to it, but the SDI is not hooked up. So that's the IP connection there. Now, you know, I'm struggling to get my arms around this, but my guess is that they are using the IP connection to control the camera, but that they probably were going HDMI or SDI, probably SDI because they've got a vMix Go, probably SDI for the control of for the signal, for the video signal. We'll have to find out about that. Well, I'll shoot them an email and see if they'll share that with me. What I liked about it the best was that you could set your presets in the input window in vMix 17, and you could then have it as a virtual camera, a virtual input. So as you're looking at, and let me bring up their little screen again here. Where is it? There it is. As you're looking, well, you can't really see it because the input screen gets in the way, but you can see two of them to the left, two of the inputs to the left, the one with the yellow on the top of it, which means it's in preview, and the one with the blue on the top of it means that it's not active. I think the blue one is a virtual input. So, and just how you can set up a virtual input in vMix for cameras, for video, for audio. I mean, anything can be a virtual input. That is, you can have two of them. You can clone it. You've got the original, and then you've got the clone. And you can zoom the original without affecting the clone. You can zoom the clone without affecting the original. So here we've got the same type of situation where you've got a camera that has a certain preset. And so when you select that camera and send it to preview, it will pan, zoom, tilt to PTZ, pan, zoom, tilt. Yeah, there it is. Oh, no, pan, tilt, zoom. Sorry. It will do what it needs to do in order to get where it's supposed to be in preview, so that when you select it for output, what we call program and some other software, when you select it for output, it's already set. However, if you were to, and you saw they did, when they cut to that camera, the camera would do whatever it had to do in order to get to that, and you got to see that happen. So I was thinking about that during the show, and I thought, if I could adjust the speed control, which apparently you can, and slow down the speed control, I can do a cut to the camera, and if it's a camera that I'm already on, it's gonna zoom, or it's gonna do whatever it's gonna do, and it's gonna act like it's got a cameraman behind it. So if I do some really careful camera stuff with a PTZ cam in a setup like this, I can have it as if it were a multi-person broadcast when it's just me. I've just pre-programmed everything. So I've got one camera in front of me, and it's taking different shots. Now, I know in vMix you can use the virtual studio, and you can zoom in that. But in this case, I guess in this case, you would just be zooming on me, and my background would stay the same. So, but I think in a true studio with a real background and not a virtual background like this, something like that might be effective. I can also think in in any place you would use a point tilt zoom camera, to be able to have it all controllable through the software is going to be huge. And apparently this is not limited to just PTZ cams. I mean, apparently the Panasonics are on board, the Sonys are on board, and my guess is that there is a generic controlling protocol that any camera that can use that generic controlling protocol will then be controllable by vMix as well. So we'll have to see as they continue to work. It looked like they were in pretty good shape on that one. I mean, I didn't notice any glitches or bugs. Now there may be some tweaks to that they want to do to fine tune it and get it a little better, or maybe they were kind of working around some of the things that weren't working right with that. But it did look. I'm gonna pop it back up here again. It did look very fine. So you can see the input window in the middle. And then right above Martin's head, Martin's the one on the left, right above Martin's head is the camera control. And then right above Tim's head to the right are the presets. And the green button at the top allows you to set a new preset. Now there must be a limit to the number of presets, but golly, there's a lot of white space there. You know, maybe you can have 8 or 10 presets per camera. Would you ever need that many? Probably not. But, I mean, I can imagine a situation where I wanted to have, where I was doing a race. Maybe this was a race with something like jet skis. And I had a PTZ cam set up, and shot number 1 with that PTZ cam was the starting line. And shot number 2 was about, and let's say I'm pretty distant back. Shot number 2 was 1/8 of a mile off the starting line. So as they go, and I've got 2 presets for those 2 shots, and then you know, obviously they're going to do the rest of the race. But for the first shot, the static shot of the start, and then a moving shot at point number 1, which would be 1/8 mile. I can set up 2 presets, one for the start, one for the 1/8 mile, and then based on what I calculate their speed to be, I can adjust the speed of my zoom. So, excuse me, when they get about to that 1/8 mile part, I can now go to preset number 2, excuse me, preset number 3, and press that one. So my camera is going to pan, hopefully at the same speed of the race, so it looks like I've got a camera person there, and that means I can do the whole thing. RJ's going to love this. I got to make sure he sees this. Now, upgrading to vMix 17 is going to be a $60 upgrade, but the PTZ control is only going to be in the top 2 versions of the software, and that's going to be the Pro and the 4K. Now the HD control, vMix HD at this point, from what I can tell in the other night, will not have the PTZ camera control. It's going to be a high-end feature only. All of them, however, will have SDI. So how do we do this? We go from one segment of the show to the next. Oh, I got it. We'll go like this. Ta-da! So now to SDI. And it's me again. Oh my goodness. Rafael says in the chat that his guess of the number of PTZ presets is limited to the number of vMix inputs. Well, let's hope that's the case, because vMix has got 1,000 inputs available. We're in pretty good shape there. Let's switch gears a little bit, and talk about NDI. NDI, Network Device Interface, is a protocol developed by Newtek actually over a period of years, and now they've opened it up to the rest of the galaxy to use and to help them develop and promote, that allows resources on the same network to be shared. By resources, I mean video and audio. So if I've got a studio here and I've got another PC in another section of the building that has a camera on it, and we're on the same network, then I can have access to that camera. And there is a NDI, I guess it's going to be a client kind of thing, or a video capture app that would reside on that second PC, and it would identify that there was video there, and it would bring it in. Haven't seen the details of all that. Actually, Newtek has been kind enough to send me some of the helper software that goes along with it. I just haven't had a chance to look at it yet. My apologies. You would think I would be all over it, and I am. But anyway, so NDI will allow NDI on the let's call it the production PC, which is the one here in my studio. That's going to have vMix on it, vMix 17, and it will be able to see and recognize any NDI source on the network. So that's going to be pretty cool. I've got I think it just showed up this morning, a gigabit switch. And I've got some extra NICs coming in, network interface, whatever the C stands for. It's a card. Yeah, maybe it's a card that I'm going to put in and try to see if I can't set up a separate network that's not necessarily connected to the internet. So I've got my internet network and my wireless for that purpose, and then this hardwired network that would be just for sharing resources. And we'll see how that goes. Now, for those of you that are doing a home talk show, the one man, one PC, one awesome broadcast deal, this is not going to help. But for those of you that are in a studio situation, or in a sports situation, or in a larger studio situation, this kind of technology is really, really going to be cool. Rafael is saying that he thought this software would run on the small Intel Atom PCs. Yeah, I think they were talking about setting up a Raspberry Pi with this software on it and an HDMI input. So there's your HDMI to NDI converter right there. You know, you put power to it, or you put a battery in it, and you Velcro it to the side of the camera and plug your HDMI in, or your SDI, or whatever it is. Martin says NDI is a protocol, so something has to use it for anyone to benefit from it in any way. Yep. Yep, and that's going to be the real test, is to see whether the NDI desktop capture app will be all that's needed on that end. We'll see. We'll see. What this really is going to do, and HWS ITV is saying in chat, and I agree, for folks that are using multiple PCs right now and are cabling all over the place, this is going to allow them to eliminate a lot of cables. It's going to allow them to set up more easily. It's going to allow them to tear down more easily. They'll have a lot more flexibility in how they can do things. Yes, there's going to be a learning curve. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, sorry. We're almost, we've run out of time. But I don't want to let that go by without showing you this quick clip from Dr. Andrew Cross, who is the CEO of Newtek, where he talks about cable distancing. So let's bring him in, and this is a clip that he did on a show that they had. This is actually a part of a larger show. So anyway, with that introduction, Dr. Andrew Cross.
Really, one of the big benefits of IP is that in many ways it connects any computer system in the world with any other computer system in the world, and the distance between them is almost irrelevant. Now, of course, you've got to have enough bandwidth, and you know, we're trying to work on really high quality, high bandwidth connections, but there's really nothing limiting you, geographically. You do not need your Tricaster system, for instance, to be in the same room as your camera at all. It can be anywhere as long as you've got enough bandwidth between them. So it can be the same building, it could be one at one end of the building, one at the other. It could be, across campus in another building, or it could be in, a remote facility if you want. And you just need to make sure that you have enough bandwidth between the places. And now the cameras are as if they were local, and you can work with them as if they were local.
So, if I'm understanding him correctly, he's saying that the limiting factor is speed. So if I've got 100 meg connection, I can send an HD camera. Martin Sinclair said it's about 100 megs for 1080p, 30 frames a second. I don't know if Australia does 30 frames a second or 25 frames a second, but whichever. It's about 100 megs for a 1080p camera. If I've got a 100 meg connection, well, let's just say 120 to give me a little headroom. That means I can send my video anywhere in the world that has at least a 100 meg download connection? Really? Really? Somebody says in the chat room, as Jill says, total connectivity. I think that's what he's getting at. Now, they haven't talked at all about how to go outside of a network. Everything that they've said has been within the structure of a local area network. And somebody somewhere, I wish I'd recorded where it was, but somebody somewhere semi-confirmed that we can do a VPN, of a virtual private network, something that basically builds a tunnel through the internet between me and you, and so it's as if we're on the same internet, on the same network, but we could be thousands of miles away. We will see. This is going to be really exciting. For folks that are in the news business, I mean, this is going to be just tremendous because it's going to revolutionize how they can do remote broadcasts if they can get a satellite in there with a good fast uplink, or heck, 5G cell phone may be enough. You just never know. Yeah, there's a lot of chat in the chat room about it that is way over my head, so I won't share it because I don't understand it yet, or maybe I'm not reading it clearly enough. Nevertheless, it's very exciting. NDI, put NDI on your calendar. NDI will be officially released along with vMix 17 and NDI, which will be officially released at NAB, which is in mid-April in Las Vegas. I'm going to be there. You need to be there too. We also were able to glean from the guys at vMix that a beta for vMix will not be coming in February. It will probably not be coming in March. It may come a couple of weeks before NAB, but it sounds like they are trying to really build to NAB as a wow. And they don't want people like me stealing their thunder, because I would steal their thunder in a heartbeat. I mean, if I see it and I like it and I think it's cool, unless I've signed an NDA, I'm going to be sharing that rascal. We are way over time, but I had all this cool stuff that I wanted to share with you. If you're like, hey, I really don't care about NDI, I really don't care about all this PTZ camera stuff, we'll be back to normal stuff soon, I promise. But this new technology has kind of got us buzzed. So, what can I say? What can I say except, hey, thanks for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, and if you've made it this far, thank you. I welcome you. And if you've made it this far, you may as well subscribe, because you're probably hooked. Please come back and visit us next week, next Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock in London, 5 a.m. Thursday somewhere in Australia. And we'll all be streaming idiots together. How about that? Anyway, take care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.